it began in silence. In the shadows of old empires and centuries of isolation, a country of over 1 billion people stirred. What followed was one of the fastest and most profound transformations in human history. Roads, skylines, factories, and fortunes rose where once there had been only fields. In a single generation, China went from bicycles to bullet trains, from rice paddies to robotic assembly lines, from the edge of global affairs to the center of the world stage. But behind the shimmering skyscrapers and economic triumphs lies a deeper story, one of ambition and uncertainty, power and pressure, pride and peril. China today is not just rising, it is redefining. Redefining what power looks like, redefining leadership, innovation, and global influence, redefining what comes after the rise. And yet, the road ahead is not guaranteed. The future carries weight. How does a country built on control adapt to global chaos? How does a society built for growth face slowdown, aging, and global rivalry? Can unity survive pressure? Can prosperity survive risk? This is not just China's story. It is a turning point in the world story. Because whether we cheer, fear, admire, or question it, China's next move will echo across the planet. For years, China was known as the world's factory, mass-producing toys, electronics, and clothing for global brands. Cities like Shenzhen transformed from fishing villages into mega-factories. But today, China is moving away from low-cost manufacturing toward becoming a global innovation powerhouse. The government's Made in China 2025 plan is focused on leading in fields like AI, quantum computing, robotics, and green energy. Chinese companies like Huawei, Xiaomi, and BYD now compete globally in smartphones, electric cars, and advanced batteries. Meanwhile, cities such as Hangzhou, Shanghai, and Shenzhen are emerging as Asia's answer to Silicon Valley. The shift is also powered by rising domestic demand, a growing middle class, and a national push for technological independence. This transformation, however, comes with pressure. Traditional factory jobs are declining, and smaller firms struggle to modernize. But the message is clear. China no longer just wants to build products, it wants to build the future. One of the biggest threats to China's future is hidden in plain sight. Its population is shrinking and aging fast. For decades, China's one-child policy controlled population growth, but now the effects are biting back. Fewer children are being born, while the number of elderly citizens is rapidly growing. By 2050, over 1/3 of China's population could be over 60. This demographic shift puts heavy pressure on healthcare, pensions, and the labor force. Factories and companies will struggle to find enough young workers, rural areas are emptying out, and younger generations in cities are less willing to marry or have children, due to high housing costs, work stress, and modern lifestyle preferences. The government has responded by ending the one-child policy and allowing families to have up to 3 children. Still, birth rates remain low. Without a strong population base, long-term economic growth becomes harder. To keep up, China is investing in automation, robotics, and AI to replace lost labor. But it's a race against time. Since 2012, China's future has been shaped by one man, Xi Jinping. Under his leadership, China has become more assertive, more centralized, and more ideological. Xi removed presidential term limits in 2018, effectively allowing himself to rule for life. His vision is bold, to make China the world's dominant power by 2049, the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic. Xi promotes the idea of the China Dream, a vision of national revival, technological leadership, and global influence. Under his rule, the Communist Party has tightened control over the media, the internet, schools, businesses, and even private life. Billionaires like Jack Ma have been reined in, and censorship has increased dramatically. Xi's policies are reshaping every corner of China. His Common Prosperity campaign aims to reduce inequality, but critics say it also suppresses dissent and creativity. Whether praised for strength or criticized for authoritarianism, one thing is clear: Xi Jinping is leading China on a path where the party controls everything and loyalty to the state comes first. In the 21st century, the world runs on tech, and China wants to lead the race. With massive government support, Chinese companies are pushing to dominate 5G, artificial intelligence, electric vehicles, and space technology. Firms like Huawei, BYD, and DJI are already global leaders. Cities like Shenzhen are now centers of high-tech innovation, rivaling Silicon Valley. After facing U.S. sanctions and losing access to key chips and technologies, China doubled down on tech independence. Billions are being invested into semiconductor development, supercomputing, and quantum research. China is also launching its own GPS system, building space stations, and exploring the Moon and Mars. However, this rapid growth comes with challenges. Many core technologies, especially advanced chips, are still imported, and while the private tech sector thrives, it's also under tight state control. Apps, data, and AI tools are monitored and must align with the government's values. Still, China is determined. It doesn't just want to use the internet, it wants to shape its future. Not long ago, China's skies were dark with smog, its rivers polluted, and its air barely breathable in cities like Beijing. Rapid industrial growth had taken a toll on the environment. But now, China is making a major green turn. It's the world's biggest investor in renewables, building solar farms, wind turbines, and hydroelectric plants on an enormous scale. President Xi has pledged that China will peak carbon emissions by 2030 and become carbon neutral by 2060. Electric vehicle production is booming, with brands like BYD selling millions of units each year. China is also leading in battery technology, clean public transport, and reforestation. Still, challenges remain. Coal is still a major energy source, especially in times of shortage. Local governments often prioritize economic growth over environmental protection. Yet, if China can truly balance green progress with continued development, it could become the global leader in the fight against climate change. Launched in 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative is China's biggest foreign policy project. It aims to build roads, railways, ports, and power plants across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America. Over 140 countries have signed deals, receiving billions in Chinese loans and infrastructure support. The goal? Strengthen trade, create new markets, and build global influence. In places like Pakistan, Kenya, and Serbia, Chinese-built highways and energy projects are transforming economies. But critics warn of debt traps where countries struggle to repay loans, risking loss of sovereignty or key assets. BRI is also a diplomatic tool. Through it, China builds long-term partnerships and reduces dependence on the West. Whether seen as a gift or a geopolitical strategy, it's working. China is now a key player in many developing nations' futures. The relationship between China and the United States is now the world's most tense and important. What began as a trade war has evolved into a tech war, a military rivalry, and a battle for global influence. Both nations are investing heavily in defense, space, cyber technology, and global alliances. The U.S. has blocked Chinese tech firms, limited chip exports, and strengthened military ties with Taiwan and allies in Asia. China, in turn, is building up its navy, expanding its presence in the South China Sea, and preparing for potential conflict over Taiwan. Despite economic ties, trust between the two powers is fading. The world fears a dangerous decoupling, or worse, a miscalculation that leads to open conflict. As China and the U.S. wrestle for dominance, the rest of the world is caught in the middle. Inside China, the government rules with one mission: stability above all. Massive surveillance systems, powered by AI and facial recognition, monitor daily life. Censorship online is strict, and the social credit system rewards or punishes behavior. The state wants order and it uses every tool to maintain it. Ethnic tensions in Xinjiang and Tibet have brought international criticism. Reports of re-education camps and mass surveillance have triggered global concern. Meanwhile, inside China, these actions are portrayed as security measures against extremism. A growing worry is youth unemployment, especially among college graduates. Many young Chinese are frustrated, struggling to find good jobs in an economy shifting away from traditional industries. Yet public dissent is rare. In China's tightly managed society, silence is often safer than protest. China isn't just playing along with the global system, it's working to reshape it. Through organizations like the UN, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, it's pushing for a world where power is shared, not dominated by the West. It's also promoting the yuan for trade and building an alternative to SWIFT through digital currency projects. Many countries, especially in the global South, welcome China's model of investment without political strings. Others fear rising authoritarian influence. From climate agreements to global trade, China is setting new standards. Its influence is growing. Whether that leads to cooperation or confrontation depends on how the West and the world responds. No issue is more dangerous for China or the world than Taiwan. China sees it as a part of its territory. Taiwan, a self-ruled democracy, sees itself as independent. The US supports Taiwan with weapons and unofficial visits, fueling Beijing's anger. China has increased military drills, flown jets near Taiwan, and warned the world not to interfere. The US has responded with naval patrols and stronger alliances in Asia. If war breaks out over Taiwan, it could pull in global powers and devastate the tech supply chain. Taiwan makes most of the world's advanced chips. For now, the peace is fragile. But every year, the risk of miscalculation grows. Taiwan may be small, but its importance is massive, and its future could shape the fate of the 21st century. China stands at a turning point in its journey. It has the population, the ambition, the technology, and the vision to become the dominant power of this century. But it also faces enormous challenges: aging demographics, economic pressures, internal control, and rising global resistance. What happens next will affect not only China, but the entire world. Will it rise peacefully, sharing power and prosperity? Or will its path lead to rivalry, repression, and potential conflict? The answer will depend on the choices China and the world make in the coming years. One thing is certain: China's future is the world's future, and the story is just beginning. Click on the like button, subscribe, drop your thoughts in the comments, and explore our channel for more eye-opening journeys into the future of global power.